All right, guys, welcome back to another awesome tabletop of a gun that I've actually had for over a month now. I haven't actually been doing gun reviews this month. I've been actually doing holster month. So this one has kind of, I don't know, I guess slid to the back of the line. But I decided to take a break from the holster videos, and I wanted to show you a Gen 5 Glock 19. Now, it is loaded. However, there is nothing in the magazine or nothing in the chamber, so it's clear. But anyway, I wanted to actually take some time to look at this gun because, for me, when I first heard of the Gen 5s, I was kind of like, who the hell needs a Gen 5 when you have a great Gen 4? And for me, the Gen 4s were basically everything I ever wanted with a Glock. It had a decent trigger out of the box, decent ergonomics, had the finger grooves, which I actually liked. And overall, it was a Glock. What else can you say? It's reliable, it's easy to carry, it's light, and overall, it will do the job every time. At least you hope so. So when the Gen 5 came out, I was like, I wasn't actually going to get one, and it was just basically because I didn't really need one. Then they came out with the 19X, this one right here, and I wound up picking up the 19X, and again, this one is also clear. And I have to say at first, when this gun came out, I said to myself, why would I get this? This has no purpose for me. I don't have access to high cap mags in New York State. And honestly, it's basically, in my opinion, what I wanted for the time, the opposite. I wanted a short grip or a 19 grip with a longer slide. So as a result, I kind of said, I'm going to stay away from it. Well, then I decided to take a leap of faith and pick it up. And I'm glad I did because I bought this gun, it actually made me eventually buy this gun. And the reason being is because of the small little tweaks here and there that Glock actually did for the Gen 5s. Now, to be honest with you, I can't name all of them. I don't know how many different upgrades. I read somewhere that it's actually 35 upgrades in regards to this Glock. So I can't tell you if that's true or not. I didn't really take it apart and count all the new parts. But some of the interesting parts that they did do, they just changed a couple of minor things. If you decided to, you could get, factory night sights, and I believe they were Spartan operator sights from Ameriglow, or you can get the regular Glock night sights, which is what came with my 19X. And again, then there were some other basic changes. For example, I think they did something with the striker. I think they changed the way, or actually it was a firing pin. I guess they reshaped the firing pin inside, so it was a little bit more square-edged as opposed to round or cylindrical. And then, of course, people were saying, well, what about the Gen 4 mags and the Gen 3 mags? Can you still use them? And yeah, you can still fit inside of a Gen 5, so that's good. Apparently, they changed the trigger return spring, so it kind of gave them a little bit better of a reset, a little bit crisper of a trigger, which I'll be honest with you, when I got out of the box, I'd have to agree that this was probably the first Glock that I had that I said, I don't really know if I need a trigger in it. However, because I had an Apex trigger for a Gen 5, I said, I'm going to put it in there anyway. Plus, I've got to say, guys, I love the flat face triggers. That's just something I like. Now, obviously, some other minor things here. You see that they did the Ambi slide controls here. So you have your slide release, slide lock, which, by the way, are actually functional. And again, that's something I've been testing and on every gun that says it's Ambi because, I want to make sure that it works for lefties and righties, and you can see that it does. So that's actually pretty good. Now, obviously, the slide coating is a little bit different. It's a little bit shinier and a little bit more... I guess you could say slick. I was hoping that eventually they'd get some, front serrations on here, and especially with this new slide coating, as smooth as it is, it's almost like a glass-like finish. I really think on this one in particular, you should have probably gotten the slide serrations. Just make it a little bit easier to manipulate in the front. Again, when they first came out with the Gen 5s, these edges here on the ends of the frames were not beveled like the slide, so it kind of made it look like an oddball kind of gun. However, as you can see on this one right here, there you go, everything is now beveled together, so it actually makes it look a little bit cleaner and a little bit more polished and finished. So that's very good. Overall, it's still a Glock 19. All my old Glock 19 holsters fit with this. So, in regards to size and just everything else, it's really the same. Now, I'm going to tell you personally, for me, what eventually made me go to the Gen 5s because of this really has nothing to do with the trigger, had nothing to do with the quote-unquote marksman barrel, didn't have anything to do with the finish or the Ambi controls. What it wound up being was, of all things that I never considered would make a difference for me, and that's actually the lack of the finger grooves. Now, for years, people have been cutting these off or, shaving them down and, smoothing them out because they didn't like the finger grooves. And I personally never had any issues with the finger grooves. Well, and then I got my hands on the 19X and this Gen 5. And I've got to say, this is probably one of the nicest feeling Glock 19s I've ever had. And it really boils down to the lack of these finger grooves, at least in my opinion. And the reason why I say that is because, and you might want to hold something or at least sit down when I say this, the lack of these finger grooves actually makes the Glock feel ergonomic. And I like that. It feels a little bit more rounded on the sides. You can see the little flaring down here beneath, this or the lower portion of the grip by the magazine. So it has a little bit of that little stylish cue right there, which is kind of nice. It doesn't really do anything to your grip necessarily, but it just makes it look a little bit nicer. Now, one of the biggest things that I saw about this that I still am not necessarily cool with is this little cutout right here. Now, of course, Glock says that's so in case you get a magazine and it's stuck in there and you want to be able to remove the magazine. The best way to do it would be to grab it from the front and over in the back where there is no dust plug here and basically pull it out from that side or the front and the rear. For me, when I initially bought this, I was a little concerned that this was going to be problematic when you're shooting and you're trying to dump a mag and then, put a new mag in. I was worried that I was going to catch my pinky. So far, 500 rounds into this gun, and I have not actually had that experience. So that's a plus, and that's definitely a good thing. I mean, overall, the Gen 5 Glock 19 is a huge surprise. I think it's as much a surprise as the 19X was. At first, I didn't really care for this gun. And then when I bought it and, I shoot it, I carry it. I was actually carrying it today all day. I've got to say, I still really like the 19X. A lot of it has to do with just the 17 grip angle. I just really like the way it feels in my hand. But that doesn't take anything away from the 19. I think the Gen 5 19 is a great addition, especially if you're a Glock fan. I know some people may say I don't really need a Gen 5 if I have a 4, 3, 2, or 1. But honestly, guys, I think they made some nice little improvements here and there on this handgun to really make it a little bit better. Now, in regards to the rifling on the barrel, I mean, did I notice a huge tick up in regards to accuracy? Not really. I would say that it's about as standard as how I shoot any other Glock, but that's not a bad thing either. So, if it's true, I didn't really notice it. But again, I'm not a marksman by any means. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about the Gen 5 Glock 19 or whatever Gen 5 you have, if you own one. Leave a comment down below. Tell us what you think of it. Tell us if you think it was worth the money spending on it. Or what you'd like to see. Now, of course, for me, obviously, there are some guns out there that I definitely would say kind of resemble my Glock. Let me see if I can find it. And it actually, I would say that for me, this one is pretty darn close too. And if I had to choose between one of them, I'm not going to tell you because it's too hard of a decision to make. And I'm just lucky and fortunate that I have both. So overall, love the Glock 19 Gen 5. I really do think it's worth getting, especially if you're a Glock lover and especially if you're a Glock fanboy, because it really does. They really did enough on this handgun, more so than I previously thought, to make it a better 19. So I hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe. As always, freedom is never free.